The Duke spoke. Good. I see you've passed the exam. A squire is still a knight. You may call me commander from now on, Aristia, she replied firmly. Yes, commander. Then the Duke introduced the knights. This is Sir Sudden, who was my aide until now. And this is Squire Letitia. Aristia thought to herself. Then I'm Squire Aristia, the Duke continued. Sir Sudden will fill you in on all of your duties. Sir Sudden then said. Hello, I am Sudden Roe Dillon from the first squad. Also Squire Letitia introduced herself. And I'm Letitia Su Lien. I'm also in the first squad. Nice to meet you, Squire Aristia. Aristia replied. Ah, yes. I'm Aristia la Monique. Looking at her, Aristia thought, so there are other women here besides me. That makes sense, but I never really thought about it. I feel like I'm not welcome here. Then she remembered something. Wait, Lien. I think I've heard that name before. Then the Duke said, Well then, I'll be on my way. It's time for me to go on patrol. You should all get to work. I'll leave it to you. Looking at Sir Sudden's serious demeanor, Aristia thought to herself, he might not be happy that a squire is suddenly taking over his job. It won't be easy to adjust here as a knight. After the Duke left, Letitia took a breath of relief. Ha! I'm finally free! Congratulations! She put her hand on Sir Sudden's shoulder and said, You must be happy now that someone is finally here to succeed you. Sir Sudden, who were looking happy, said, Haha! I wonder if this is all a dream. He then looks towards Aristia and said, Oh right. Please excuse us. I'm so glad that you're here, Squire Aristia. Aristia was still surprised by their sudden change in behavior. She replied, Pardon? Ah, yes? Sir Sudden said, I sincerely welcome you to the first squadron. Aristia replied, Ah, I see. I'm just happy that you're excited to have me. Sir Sudden replied, Excited? You're my savior, Aristia. Aristia asked. How could I be a savior? He replied. Well, you'll find out soon enough after working with the commander. While remembering her past life, Aristia thought, Oh, that's true. He's not exactly a kind teacher. She remembered the Duke's nagging. That's completely wrong. Memories of a past life flashed before her. Aristia thought, He doesn't look it, but he's very strict. Learning from him was tough for me too. She then asked, Are you excited to see me too, Squire Letitia? She joyfully replied, Of course. I've heard so much about you. I'm so honored to meet you in person. Aristia said. Yes. I didn't think there'd be other women here, Letitia replied. Oh, that's right. The second squad only has men. Well, there are a handful of women in the first squad. Though, you're the only one among the newcomers this year. There aren't many. After hearing that, Aristia replied, I see. Aristia thinks in her mind. She knows a lot about the other knights too. She must know many people. Then Sir Sudden said, Now, Squire Aristia, it's time to learn the ropes. Letitia said, I'll come with you too. While learning the work, Aristia thought to herself, being the aide of a knight commander requires a lot of work, more than I had expected. At the last, Aristia said, Yes, I understand. Sir Sudden said, This is all new for you, but you learn quickly. At this rate, we'll be almost done. Aristia said, Is that so? Letitia then told Sir Sudden had a really tough time when he first became an aide. Watching him almost made me tear up. Sir Sudden replied, I don't want to hear that from someone who's still a squire. Letitia smirkingly replied, It's not that I can't become a knight. I'm just postponing it. I'll become one when I want to be. Sir Sudden countered, That's just an excuse. You keep failing because you're always late to the exam, Letitia said. And I do that on purpose. Because I've realized the true benefits of being a squire. No responsibilities. Now is the time to enjoy my life. After hearing that, Sir Sudden shouted, What are you talking about? And right in front of our new member? You have the skills, but you lack the motivation, Letitia said. I don't want to listen to a strict old man like you. Sir Sudden again shouted, You should listen. While looking at them bickering, Aristia chuckled. She said, You two seem really close. Sir Sudden replied, Oh, well, we've known each other since we were young, Aristia said. That's nice. It must be great to work with a friend, he replied. Really? It's mostly tiring. Then Letitia spoke. But you're right. Plus, there are those who enter the knight squadron with family too, just like you, Squire Aristia. After hearing that, Aristia thought, Really? Will I get tired of always seeing Papa in the palace? I can't imagine. After suddenly remembering something, Aristia asked. Oh, Squire Letitia, do you happen to have a family member who is also a knight? She thought. Her last name is Lien, and she has ashen hair, Letitia replied. Yes. You must be acquainted with my brother in the 2nd Squadron. Aristia remembered her father knight, so she's his sister. Wow. They don't look alike at all, except for their hair color. Looking at Aristia fidgeting, both Sir Sudden and Letitia thought she must be thinking, how could they be related? Then Sir Sudden said, Now, since I'm done showing you the ropes, how about we go to the training ground? Letitia said. Me too. Me too. I want to help Squire Aristia, Sir Sudden then said. Please don't spill any more ink or file the papers upside down, Letitia replied. If Squire Aristia gets a bad impression of me, it's all your fault. Looking at them, Aristia giggled. Hee hee, she thought. It must be nice to be with a friend. Meanwhile, Alandis was talking to a mysterious person. While holding a letter, Alandis asked, So your master wishes to meet with me? The person replied, Yes, that is correct. My master has sent you numerous letters, but you have yet to reply. I was ordered to deliver your answer today, Alandis said. I understand, the person said. Then I'll be waiting outside for you to finish writing your letter, Alandis said. No need. He burnt the letter, and while showing to the person he said, Tell your master that this is my answer. After that person left, Alandis saw him leave through the window. He thought, Count Hemel, he's part of the nobility faction. It's obvious why he would want to secretly meet with someone from the opposing faction. Alandis said to himself, How foolish. It's useless to struggle when you're barely staying alive. Then he thought, Still, I wonder why Tia hasn't replied to me. It's been a while since she's returned to Monique Manor. I thought she would come visit me soon, but she hasn't given me a single reply despite all the letters I've sent. He asked himself, What happened? I'm just waiting for you. I feel like I could reach out my hand and catch you. I can see your smile, and it looks like it could fade away at any second. I miss you, Tia, my silver lady. While he was thinking, someone knocks on the door. Alandis asked, Who is it? The voice called, Alan, are you there? Just a moment ago, I saw someone leaving. Who were you talking to? After hearing that voice, Alandis thought, Why is she here? After all this time, the voice trails, worried. You barely ate anything today, too. Are you sure you're not feeling sick? Alan, please open the door. Alandis finally responded. Why? If I'm sick, will you take care of me? Leave me alone, and pay no attention to what I eat or who comes to visit me. The frustration in his voice was palpable. If you're worried that I might die in this manner or bring disgrace to our family, don't, the voice replied. Alan, please don't be like that. I'm just worried about, but he cuts her off. If you want to worry about something, worry about that weak brother of mine. Just go. Go back to my brother, like you've always done. After hearing this, she steps back, disheartened. After she left, Alandis sighs. Worried, humph. After all this time, don't do something so meaningless, he reminded himself. Don't mind her, just think about Tia. I've prepared a lot of stories for you, and presents as well. But when can I see you again? As he was reading the book, he saw a glimpse of Aristia. As he quickly turns towards it, there was nothing. He wondered, was it my imagination? I shouldn't waste time. I'll write another letter. Not too long after joining the Night Squad, the Emperor summoned Aristia for an audience. Looking at the Emperor, Aristia thinks, I thought he'd tell me to stop studying with the knights, or maybe asked me to hurry up and become a royal. But instead, he simply asked how I was doing, and didn't mention anything else. The Emperor asked, So, did Ru visit you? She asked. I heard he passed by the Monique estate, Aristia replied. Yes, he stopped by before I returned to the capital. I see. There's a pause, almost wistful. Aristia thought to herself. Though, I didn't see him off. The Emperor then asked, It's going to be winter soon. Do you like winter, Lady Aristia? She replied. Yes, I do. I see. That's different from... His words trail off. Aristia wonders. Different? From who? She then asked. Do you not like winter, Your Majesty? The Emperor said. It's nothing. Please forget my rambling, she replied. Yes, Your Majesty. After the audience with the king, Aristia was thinking. Today, His Majesty seems to have a lot on his mind, but he didn't ask me any questions about becoming the heir of my family. Did he already talk with Papa? Turning towards the garden, she said. Winter, she thought. Regardless, I'm very busy these days. I have to stay focused. There's a lot I need to learn as an aide, and as the heir of House Monique, I have to work hard, as she was managing the document. Oh, Squire Aristia, you spelled something wrong here, her fellow squire, Letitia, points out. Aristia said. You're right. Thank you, Squire Letitia, don't mention it. Letitia chuckled. Aristia praised her. You're very reliable, Letitia grinned. Right? She boasted. I'm much more reliable than my brother. I'm also much better at sword fighting, Sir Sudden remarked. Shouldn't you wait and say that after you've actually become a knight? They started arguing with each other, and Aristia doesn't pay mind to them as she gets used to it. After completing the work, Aristia reached home and jumps on her bed. Ag, so tired, Lena suggested. Why don't you take a break tomorrow? Aristia replied. I don't have time. I may not be going to work, but there's a pile of things I need to study. Oh, Lena, you can just put those books on the table. As her eyes gets heavy, she thought. I'm so sleepy. Did I forget anything? She asked, blinking her tired eyes. Lena, were there any letters addressed to me? Lena replied. None, my lady, Aristia asked. Really? She thought. Alandis didn't send anything today too. I wonder if he's busy. I should be the one to contact him first, but I'm just postponing it. He's my precious friend, who supported me when I was having a hard time, she resolves. I'll go see him later, when I'm free, before winter comes. Meanwhile, the prince was in Borderlands. He said to himself, I should go back soon. Before winter comes, Heron said. Well, we'll be heading back earlier than expected. Will that be all right? Once we return to the capital, the other countries will be quite aggressive. Didn't you come all the way here to avoid that mess with the future empress? He asked with a knowing smile. The prince grumbled. There was that problem, he said. Yes, but even without that, we must head back now. I have to return now, or else I'll be late. After hearing his reply, Heron thought. I see. There's a certain day during winter when he's like this. I wonder if she knows. Letitia was giving books to Aristia. Be careful, Squire Aristia. It's pretty heavy, Letitia warned as she handed her a stack of books. Is this the last one? Letitia asked. Aristia replied. Yes, these are all the books the commander requested. You two really helped me a lot. Next time, please visit the manor. I'll make sure to welcome you well. If you're inviting us, of course we'll go. They laughed as they talked. Suddenly, Aristia stopped, noticing a familiar head of red hair passing by. That red hair, could it be Carcian? She wondered as she ran towards him. Lady Aristia, Letitia called her from behind. He was Cajun. Cajun notices her. Oh, Lady Aristia? She turned to see Sir Cajun. Oh, Sir Cajun. She wasn't expecting him, Cajun said. Ah, you're Squire Aristia now. Congratulations on joining the squad. Thank you, she replied with a small smile. She thought. Right, of course, he wouldn't be in the palace, Letitia asked from behind. Squire Aristia? What is it? As they gets close to her, Letitia greeted. Oh, Sir Cajun, it's been a while. Cajun. Were you two helping Squire Aristia? I trust you'll do well. My father must be very relieved as well, they replied. We're honored. Aristia took a moment, then asked. How is Carcian? Is he doing well these days? Oh, sane? Cajun paused, considering. I'm not sure I'd say he's doing well. Aristia gets worried. Did something happen? Cajun replied. Nothing is wrong, he's training every day like usual, but perhaps he's just working very hard. I don't know what it is, but there's a sort of desperation about him. Still, he won't tell me, so I'm not sure. Desperation, Aristia echoed. She thought. I see. Carcian is trying his best as well. I'm sure he's training hard to become a knight. Then Letitia said. Sir Cajun, we're sad we don't see you more. You should stop by the first squad more often. Cajun chuckled. I'd like to, but I'm the aide for the second squad now, Letitia insisted. But still, Sir Sudden intervened. Don't be stubborn. You should already know how busy it is being an aide just by looking at me, Letitia said. Isn't that because you lack talent? Oh, come on. You should already know how busy it is being an aide, just by looking at me, Cajun said. Later, when I return to the first squad, we'll be spending so much time together, you'll get sick of each other. Yes, sir. Of course, they all replied. Aristia reflected on her friends. Alandis, Carcian, and even me, we're all busy, so we won't have time to see each other that often. But there's nothing that can be done, Aristia's father called Lena and said. Wait a moment. as she was carrying the letter. She replied. Ah, yes, Your Grace, he asked. Is that another letter addressed to Tia? Yes, from House Verita, Lena replied with a slight hesitation. He took it immediately and said, I'll take it. Lena complied. Yes, her father puts Alandis' letter in a drawer. When should I tell the young lady about this? Lena asked uncertainly. He said, There's no need to inform her. Keep quiet about it. Lena thought uncomfortably. I wonder if this is really all right. Her father puts the letter in the drawer and locks it. He wrote a letter to Alandis. Sir Alandis, I'll be direct. I'd like you to refrain from contacting my daughter. I'm sure you're aware she is still the fiancée of the royal prince. Now that she has debuted in society, I'm worried she'll be involved in meaningless rumors. As her father, I had to send this letter out of concern. You have good sense, so I know you'll understand what I mean. Kyrian La Monique. Alandis crumpled the letter, saying, So you plan to interfere with me, Marquis? He slams his hands on the table. After gritting his teeth, he quickly turns and said, Humph, to hell with him. He toppled all the books in anger, saying, Looks like you want to separate us. What? Refrain from contacting her? She's still the prince's fiancée? So what, butler? He shouted. Yes, young master? The butler appeared at his side. Alandis ordered, Send someone to House Hamel now, and make sure no one knows of this. As the butler hurried off, Alandis muttered bitterly, I was trying to respect your wishes since you're my lady's father, Tia. You are a member of House Monique, a family that swears loyalty to the royal family. That's why I was going to stay quiet under the influence of the royal order. But if this is how you're going to be, then I'll change my plans. I won't just stand by while she's being taken away from me. HM? Did the ink run out? Aristia muttered, checking her pen. She opens the drawer and glanced at the stack of letters Alandis had sent her while she was at the Monique estate. She was wondering, he had suddenly stopped writing. Lena announced cheerfully, Now then, my lady, it's time for tea. I'll go prepare some for you. Oh, Lena, hold on a moment, Aristia interrupted. Are there no letters for me today as well? Specifically from House Verita? Aristia thought. Alandis sent me a letter every week, even when I was at the Monique estate. It's odd that he suddenly stopped, she said to Lena. Can you just make sure and check that it hasn't gotten mixed up with someone else's letters? Lena looked hesitant. There's really none, my lady, she stammered. Aristia's eyes narrowed slightly. You're hiding something, aren't you? I won't get mad, so tell me the truth. Oh, ugh. Lena hesitated before saying, But I was told not to say anything. Lena. Aristia's tone was gentle but firm. Lena confessed. The truth is, you did get letters. Several letters, in fact. But, Aristia murmured. I knew it, Lena continued. The Marquis said not to tell you about them. The Marquis said that you wanted this, that you had to focus on your work for a while. I'm terribly sorry, Lena explained. She thought. He said I wanted this. Papa, she then said. Lena, I need to go out. Oh? Where will you be going, my lady? Lena asked, surprised. She replied. To the Verita Manor. Moments later, Aristia arrived at the Verita estate. Alandis's mother greeted her. Oh, lazy Aristia? She said while bowing politely. Greetings, Your Grace. Please excuse me for visiting without prior notice, came the warm reply. Do not worry, I'm actually glad that you're here. You're here to see Alandis, right? I'll have someone show you the way. As she was led through the hallways, Aristia's mind raced. I wonder why Papa went so far as to hide his letters. I always knew he wasn't pleased with me being friends with Alandis, but still, hiding his letters without telling me? That's not like him. Asterisk. Reaching the door, she knocked. She heard a voice from inside. Go away. I remember saying that no one is allowed to enter this room. Aristia froze. Her heart was sinking. What was that, just now? Was that really Alandis's voice? I've never heard him use such a cold, harsh tone. She felt a pang of guilt, realizing that he might be upset, perhaps thinking that she'd ignored all his letters. Alandis turned and said, Didn't you hear me? I told you to get out. He started, but then stopped abruptly as he caught sight of her. Tia? Alandis stared, disbelief etched across his face. He muttered bitterly. Right. Now I'm hallucinating. If I'm seeing things like this, I suppose it means I've been working too hard lately. Or perhaps, I miss you so much that I'd even come up with an illusion like this, he continued. You know, Tia, I heard you had returned, but you haven't contacted me at all. Have you forgotten about me? Or perhaps, You still can't forgive me? After hearing that, Aristia called out, Alan! It's me! Alandis stands up in shock. He walks to her in disbelief. Tia? Alandis called as he moved closer. Is it really you? He extends his hand to touch her, but Aristia backs away a little. Then she quickly realized. Oh no, why did I try to avoid him? He must be hurt. She then grabs his hand and said, Alan! I'm so late, aren't I? I was going to visit you, but things got so hectic that I didn't have time to spare. I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? Alandis pulls her towards him and embraced her. Tia! He breathed. Tears start scalding from his eyes. Tia, it's really you! Alan, are you crying? Aristia asked softly, noticing his misty eyes. He said, I thought I'd never see you again. She replied. That wouldn't happen, she thought. Looks like we've been apart for too long. After a few moments, Aristia asked, You seemed really busy. Are you sure I'm not intruding? He assured her. Intruding? You're always welcome. Oh, take a seat first. I have something I wanted to give you. All right, Aristia said, settling down and glancing around at the stacks of books. He has so many books here. Is he researching something? She notices a familiar letter on his table. Just then, Alandis returned, holding a jar. Sorry to keep you waiting, Tia. Oh, it's all right, she replied. She then asked, What's this, Alan? Inside the box was a delicate flowers unlike any she had ever seen. He explained. It's called Blue Mellow, and it only blooms on our family's estate. Wow, it's so pretty! Aristia exclaimed, admiring the vibrant blue tea. Alandis said, Isn't it? But that's not all. He juiced a lemon on the tea and it clear changes from blue to pink. It gradually changed from blue to a lovely shade of pink. While amazed, Aristia asked, How did this happen? It's amazing! It turned pink, Alandis replied. I thought you might enjoy this, so I'm happy. The box is a gift for you, so take it with you later. She asked, But isn't this rare? You said it only grows on the Verita estate, he replied. It's all right. I prepared this especially for you. Really? Thank you, Alan. She beamed. Alandis stared at her. What's wrong? She asked, noticing his gaze. He replied, Oh, it's nothing. It's just, I've never seen you smile like that before. So brightly. Really? Is it weird? She asked, a bit self-conscious. He replied, Not at all. But don't smile like that just anywhere. What if someone falls for you after seeing your smile? Aristia replied with a chuckle. Gosh, Alan, I see you still enjoy making those jokes. They continued chatting for long until it gets evening. Then, glancing at the time, she gasped. Oh, look at the time. I should get going. Yes, it's gotten quite late. Alan disagreed. Aristia asked as she was about to leave. So won't you be training anymore? He replied. Yes, well, pretty much. I won't quit completely, but I won't be able to spend as much time on the sword as I used to. I have to help my father now. Then, were all those books for work? You had so many in that room, she asked. He confirmed. Yes, they're for my father, she advised. I see. Don't overwork yourself, Alan. I'll write to you soon. As she was getting on carriage, Alandis said, Tia, I'd like to see you off myself. May I? As they were on carriage, Aristia thought, From now on, Alan and I won't be crossing paths so often. I was expecting this, and still, I can't help feeling a bit blue. She also recalled seeing a letter inside his room. The color of that letter was. As they reached the gates, Aristia turned to Alandis. Thank you for coming all this way, Alan, he said. It's really dark now. You should hurry inside. As they were saying their goodbyes, the Marquis was waiting for her. You've finally returned, Tia? Papa! She gasped in surprise. She hadn't expected him to be home so soon. Alandis said. Greetings, Your Grace. It's been a while, Sir Alandis, her father said curtly. He asked. Tia, are you just now returning after seeing Sir Alandis? She replied. Yes. Let's go inside, the Marquis ordered. He then said. Thank you for bringing my daughter home, Sir Alandis. But you'll have to excuse me. It's too late to invite you inside. It's fine, I understand. Goodbye, Tia. I'll see you next time, Alandis said. Aristia replied. Take care, Alan. Then they head inside as Alandis was standing there watching them. After they reached inside the building, her father turned to her, his expression stern. Tia, I need to have a word with you, she thought. He must be upset that I left without finishing my work, she then said. I'm sorry for leaving without telling you, Papa, she apologized, but something weighed on her mind, something she needed to ask. Papa, I also need to ask you something, Aristia asked. I heard you were keeping all the letters Alandis had sent to me. Yes, I was, her father admitted. She demanded. But why? I already knew that you didn't like him very much. But you've been watching over us without a word until now. So why, after all this time, were you suddenly taking all the messages that were sent to me? You didn't tell me anything. Papa! Her mind raced, and she recalled the silver letter she'd seen earlier. That letter must have been from Papa, she then questioned. How could you? That's so cruel, she thought. What did he say to Alan? Alan thought we would never meet again. He even cried because of it. Her father sighed. Tia, things may change in the future, but right now, you're still the prince's fiancée. You're different from the daughters of other noble families. I'm sure you know that rumors will spread when you meet with others. That's why I taught you, since you were young, to keep a distance. But somehow, you naturally befriended Sir Alandis and Sir Carcian. Although I was worried about the possible rumors, I didn't stop you, because I saw how happy you were spending time with them. He took a momentarily pause, then continued. But then, I heard that Sir Alandis visited you the day before the prince's coming-of-age ceremony, and you suddenly banned him from here. After that, you seem to be suffering. Since the prince is not here in the capital, there are many eyes watching. If you're going to be hurt by someone instead of being comforted, then there's no reason for me to overlook you two getting close. Aristia looked down while thinking and said, Still, you didn't have to hide the letters like that. He nodded, a hint of guilt shadowing his features. You're right. I do admit that was my fault. I hid them because I didn't know what the letters contained. You were finally better, so I was worried you might get hurt again. I was happy to see you working so hard with such a bright smile, and I ended up getting too greedy. I'm sorry, Tia. Her father looked at her with a newfound warmth. Aristia took a deep breath, her frustration easing slightly. Right. If I think about it, it's partly my fault for making him worry so much, she apologized. I'm sorry for being childish, her father then said. I left the letters unopened. Would you like to take them? Aristia shakes her head and said, You can give them to me later, when you think it's fine to do so. As Aristia was about to leave, her father called her. Tia, don't you despise me for doing this? She chuckled and said. You know very well that could never happen. Then she closes the door and left. Her father suddenly remembered her mother. You know very well that could never happen. He gave a small smile and looked outside the window. He called, Jeremiah. Meanwhile, Alandis, as he was leaving in the carriage, he said to himself while imagining Aristia, Tia, you've changed so much. I wonder what happened to you while I wasn't by your side, but no matter what happens, you're still my precious lady. He remembered her. Her calm and quiet presence, her long, soft silver hair, her golden eyes filled with warmth and affection. All of that, for I have been captivated by you, since the day I swore that lie. Suddenly, a loud call broke the moment. His Royal Highness will be returning! His Royal Highness will be returning! All the knights began to gather, standing in formation to greet the returning prince. Aristia's heart skipped a beat. He's returning? Not long after the start of winter, news of the prince's return from inspecting the borders spread quickly. The palace was abuzz with his earlier-than-expected arrival. All the knights gathered to welcome the prince. Aristia and her knights were also there. I heard he was inspecting the borders to reorganize the troops, a knight murmured. Will there be changes to the army? We recently recruited more knights, another replied. It's possible there'll be a big change. What do you think, Squire Aristia? She replied. Yes? Huh. Oh, well, I think. The prince noticed Aristia in the crowd as she was talking to her fellow knights. The prince went to his father and said, I've returned, father. Good work, my son, his father replied. How was the inspection? The prince reported. I found some problem areas in our policies that will need restructuring. Additionally, our aid wasn't enough to resolve all of the issues brought about by the recent drought. I believe that will need immediate attention, his father instructed. I see. Then later, we will discuss your inspection report along with the current status of the borders and their policies. Make sure you are well prepared, the prince replied. Yes, father. Oh, and since you're back, you should relax, the king advised with a gentle smile. A nice walk around the palace might do you some good, the prince responded. Understood. While he was walking in the palace, Heron suggested, Your Highness, perhaps you should rest first, even for just a moment, the prince replied. Before that, there are some things I must take care of. Arrange a meeting with the council. Ask the chancellor to set a date as soon as possible. However, Heron filled in. Keep the day after tomorrow open. Correct? The prince replied. Yes. The attendant hesitated. So, I wasn't mistaken, she joined the night squad? The prince saw Aristia walking in the night uniform with her fellow squires. The prince wondered. So I wasn't mistaken. Did she join the night squad? Father probably told me to take a walk around the palace because of her, really. The prince cut him off. Let her be. She probably doesn't remember. As the prince started walking, Aristia also noticed him. She gets startled. Ans accidentally dropped her books. Squire Aristia! You dropped your books! Letitia exclaimed, picking them up for her. Oh, sorry, she muttered. Letitia added. You've been acting strange lately. Do you have something on your mind? Or are you tired? Aristia answered, brushing it off. No, I'm all right, she thought to herself. It's fine, of course, I'd run into him. This is the palace. I'm nervous because it's been a while. It's just, I haven't seen him since the night I collapsed. At night, unable to sleep, Aristia decided to take a walk around the manor. As she wandered through the quiet halls, she noticed something odd. Is someone else still up at this hour? She wondered. The rooms in this hallway are all empty. Why would someone leave a door open? She peeked inside and saw someone, standing alone, lost in thought. She thought, someone's in here. Why would they be here at this hour? Could it be an intruder? She hid herself at a corner. The person spoke. It's already been 7 years since you left, Jeremiah. It was Aristia's father. He murmured, unaware of Aristia's presence. Phew, that surprised me. It's just Papa. She thought, relieved. Her father continued, looking at her painting. Our time together was so short, yet the time we're apart continues on. Have you been watching? Jeremiah, our daughter has grown up so much. Jeremiah, that's the name of my mother who passed away. Aristia realized with a pang of sadness. Her father continued. I'm sorry, the day you left is tomorrow. But I don't think I can bring Tia with me this year as well. She's still a delicate child, and I'm afraid to have her remember you. He looked at the delicate flower, offering it as if to an unseen presence. Do you like the gift I brought you? It's your favorite flower. I had hoped to show you how precious our daughter is now. She's resembling you more and more. And now, our child wants to inherit this family. His gaze grew distant. I wanted our daughter to live a peaceful life at least. I wanted it as a way to atone for you, who had to leave like that. I didn't want to pass down the curse that runs in the blood of this family. Aristia stiffened at his words. Curse? Aristia thought. The blood vow between House Monique and the imperial family is a double-edged sword. I know Father doesn't want to talk about it, but I didn't think he hated it so much that he'd call it a curse. Her father said. I've always agreed with His Majesty's ideals and worked tirelessly to bring them to life. I've even stained my hands with blood several times for those ideals. You probably knew that very well. I don't want Tia to bloody her small hands. I want her to be free. Aristia felt touched after hearing that. Papa, her father continued, I couldn't fall asleep, and I ended up just coming here to talk to you. I should go now. I'll be back tomorrow. And after that he walks away. Aristia thought to herself, tomorrow is the day my mother died. I thought Papa didn't want to talk about Mother out of grief, but it was because he was worried about me. She went to where her father was standing and looks at the painting. It's too dark for me to see her face clearly. Sasanqua camellias. I think they were my mother's favorite flower. My mother passed away when I was 6, but I don't remember anything. All I know is how sadly I cried. But, even though it happened when I was young, why can't I recall anything at all? Have I been too ignorant this whole time? She remembered. Yes, even before time was turned back. I think I talked about my mother. Huh! Just then, she almost remembered something. The next morning, Father greeted me warmly. Good morning, Tia, she replied. Good morning, her father said. You're wearing your uniform. Are you going to work? She replied. Yes, I didn't complete my work yesterday. Are you going to work too, Papa? He shook his head gently. I'm taking the day off today. Take care. Oh, she thought, perhaps he might be visiting Mother's grave. Today is that day, but somehow, I couldn't bring myself to mention it. Papa doesn't want me to inherit House Monique, yet he still supports me. I wonder how he feels. As she focused on her duties, Commander approached. Squire Aristia. Why, yes. Yes, Commander. She stammered, startled. He suggested. You'll get a headache from looking at those papers all day. Why not get some fresh air outside? Aristia replied. My apologies. I lost focus and, she thought. He noticed that I was lost in thought. He chuckled, sensing her distraction. It's fine. Go take a break. The exit is right behind you, in case you didn't know. I'll return immediately, she mumbled while embarrassed. After she left, the Duke said to himself, Gee, and here I thought she didn't know. Kyrian must have been really obvious about it. Of course it's difficult to focus on a day like this. As she walked out, her thoughts swirled. Today was the day of my mother's death, a subject too painful to speak of. The curse in our blood, and the inheritance of the family name. She remembered her father's word. I want her to be free, she thought. I didn't know Papa was troubled by these things. He has always quietly supported me, standing by my side. Perhaps that's why, in the past, Father sent me to the imperial family. He didn't want me to be bound to the name of House Monique. Thinking about it blurred her thoughts even more. As she reached the garden, she said, It's been a while since I came to this garden. I keep returning here when I'm lost in thought. I guess I can't break that habit. The sky is cloudy. I wonder if it'll rain. Her thought wondered. I know I shouldn't come here, but just for today. Just for a moment. Then she saw the prince coming while holding flowers. Both of them saw each other, and were surprised to see each other. Panically, Aristia said, Greetings, Prince Ruvlis, future son of the Empire. She thought to herself, What am I doing? Don't just stare at him like that, he said. Oh, yes, it's been a while, he asked. What brings you here? She said. Please excuse me, I was simply taking a short break, he observed. Judging by your uniform, you must be in the first squadron, she replied. Yes, Your Highness. After a pause, he asked, Then are you not having any nightmares these days? After hearing that, her mind raced. Nightmares? Does he know about the past that I spoke of with Papa and Alan? Is he trying to test me? Did he hear someone talking about the daughter of House Monique having nightmares? Or did I mumble something in my sleep when I collapsed at our estate? She gets stiffened thinking. Nightmares, what is he talking about? How should I answer him? The prince shrugged it off. No. Let's just forget what I said, she agreed. Yes. As a moment of awkward silence began, the prince thought. I should probably say something. Aristia thought the same. I should just say anything and leave, both of them thought. This is so awkward. I don't know what to say. Suddenly a maid came and said, Your Highness. Right, he replied as the maid approached. The maid said, Shall I place these in your chamber as usual? The prince said. Yes, Aristia thought. As usual, Aristia began hesitantly. Your Highness, do you like Sasanqua camellias? I heard my mother also liked that flower. She did, he responded simply. Aristia gets surprised. She did? She asked. Did you know my mother? But he spoke. I could ask you a similar question. How did you know about that flower? I thought you weren't aware of the anniversary of her death, she replied, feeling embarrassed. I learned of it, by chance, a while ago. She thought, this is shameful. He already knew that I hadn't known about the day. The prince said. I see. As a gust of wind passed, the prince looked a little distant. Looking at him, Aristia thought. What does that expression mean? He seems somehow different from before. Suddenly it started snowing. Aristia thought. Wow, the snowflakes are so big and beautiful, and quite pretty. The prince stared at her, watching the snow fall gently around them. He then asked, Will you walk with me for a bit? As they walked, the crunch of snow and rustling of grass filled the silence. Aristia thought to herself, This place hasn't been tended to in a while. It's strange that the Emperor's garden would be so neglected. If it continues like this, everything will wilt. The prince suddenly said. How odd. She agreed unknowingly. Yes, that's. She then realized and said. Pardon? He asked, glancing at a barren tree in front of them. He said. This tree, it should be blooming with flowers around this time of year. Aristia asked. Have you seen this tree in bloom before? He replied. I saw it once when I was little. Occasionally it blooms, but it's a bit irregular. Its flowers aren't particularly impressive, but their silver color makes them look very elegant, she said. I see, I wonder that they look like. Suddenly she realized. Just now, did he really talk to me about a flower? Then the prince asked. Have you heard of the Della flower? They say that if a couple shares the white flowers from a single branch, their love will come true, she replied, surprised by his knowledge. Oh, yes, that flower blooms in the summer, right? He said. Yes. It resembles this tree somewhat. Aristia thought. The Della flower has 6 pure white petals that open up shyly when it blooms. It's praised for being as beautiful as someone who has fallen in love, similar to how this tree's flowers look, she said, imagining it. Really, it must be beautiful. Looking at her smile, the prince said. You finally look healthy now. With a gentle smile turning back toward the palace, Aristia said. Pardon, the prince said. We should return? She replied. Yes, Your Highness. As the prince was walking away, he said, You look very much like your mother. Later, standing in the hallway, she tried to open the door that was locked. She thought, It's locked today. I wanted to see her portrait again. Perhaps someone else might know. She noticed Lena and Sir Liege talking to each other. Aristia walks to them and said, Sir Liege, I'd like to ask you something? He replied. Yes, my lady. What is it about? She asked. Sir Liege, you've seen my mother before, right? He replied. You mean the late Marchioness? Yes, of course I knew her, she asked. Then, do you think I look like my mother? He paused, his gaze growing thoughtful. The Marquis wouldn't have said that. Who told you this, my lady? She told. It was, actually, the prince who mentioned it, Sir Liege then said. So that's what happened. I suppose His Highness remembers this day as well, he added quietly, his gaze distant with the memory. His Highness was present when the Marchioness passed away. Aristia was shocked. The prince was that close to my mother? This is my first time hearing that. Neither the prince nor Papa ever mentioned it. Sir Liege looked at her kindly. You probably don't remember that day. When you learned of her passing, you cried so much that you went into shock. The Marquis comforted you when he arrived, but you could have fallen terribly ill. After that, he forbade anyone from mentioning the Marchioness in front of you. She concluded. So that's why Father didn't tell me about the anniversary of Mother's death. But how did the prince end up witnessing my mother's passing? Sir Liege added. You look very much like her, Aristia murmured, almost as if lost in thought. Pardon, Sir Liege said. You do resemble the late Marchioness. Except for the color of your hair, you look very much alike, he replied softly, studying her face. Then Aristia said, Sir Liege, it's late now. You should ho rest, Lena added. Let's go to your chamber together, my lady. She hesitated, sensing that she shouldn't press him with any more questions. She thought to herself, there was so much I still didn't know. What kind of woman was she? How did she meet my father? Why did she pass away? Will I get to know someday about their story? Cassian was still training hard in winter. Phew, this isn't working out, his brother, who was looking at him, said. Sane, you need to calm down. Aren't you cold wearing only that in this weather? Cassian replied. What? I'm busy, so if you've got something to say, hurry up, his brother said. Busy? It's still pretty early in the morning. Don't bother me if you've got nothing to say, Cassian replied, exasperated. His brother agreed. Fine, I just thought you'd be curious to hear what happened to Lady Aristia, but it looks like you're not interested, he said, knowingly that Cassian will react. Cassian grabbed his shoulder as he was about to leave. What happened to her? He smirkingly asked. Want to know? Cassian shot back. Suddenly, I don't want to know anymore, he coaxed. Come on, hear me out. Seems like she started the lessons to inherit House Monique. She's working as a squire in the 1st Squadron. Cassian remembered her words. I will follow in the footsteps of my family. Her words echoed in his mind, he said with a bright smile. I see. She's a squire now, his brother added. She's wearing the red uniform of our 1st Squadron. You know what that means, right? So you should stop and… Cassian cut him off while feeling pumped. All right, I can't just sit here and stand back after hearing that. I'm training all day today. Wait, what? Sane, what are you talking about? You're already… His called after him, but he was already gone. As the year came to an end, the Imperial Palace was bustling with appointments and transfers, filling every division with new recruits due to policy changes initiated after the Crown Prince's report on the border. The entire palace seemed invigorated by this new wave of talent, Sir Sudden asked while groaning. Meanwhile, you gave up on your official knighthood promotion again? He added. What a lazy soul, Letitia smirkingly said. This Letitia Sulien only wishes for a free and happy life, Sudden added. What are you talking about? I saw you groaning from a hangover. Letitia stopped him by pushing a book at his face. Watch that mouth of yours, she shouted, covering Aristia's ears. My dear Squire, Aristia shouldn't have to hear such terrible gossip, Sudden shouted. If you know it's terrible, shouldn't you consider stopping first? Letitia answered. There will be more squadrons soon, so why be so worried? Aristia said. But I heard the promotion exam was really difficult this year, Sudden told. The promotion exam was difficult even in the past when there were 5 squadrons, Aristia thought. There are only 3 squadrons now, so the competition is fierce. Yet people say the exam is easier these days. I have to keep my focus. I'm a squire now, but I'll be the laughing stock of the squad if I fail to become a proper knight. Then Letitia said, By the way, I passed by the administration earlier. I heard there's a new genius there, the Chancellor's youngest son. Aristia realized. It's Alan. So he's working in administration now? Letitia told. He youngest officer not only among the new recruits but also among those in the entire Imperial office. He must really be a genius, as they say. After hearing that, Aristia smiles. Alan really is amazing. He's the youngest administration officer. Suddenly they heard footsteps. Oh, the commander is here, Letitia exclaimed. Sudden said. Move your lazy self over there. Commanding officer strode into view as Carcian was asking. Come on, father! Let me, the Duke replied. A no is a no. Maybe Cajun, but you're too young. Oh, Carcian? Aristia exclaimed in surprise, noticing him for the first time. Aristia! He stammered, looking flustered. She asked. Why are you here? Wait, I mean, it's been a while. Carcian looks at her stepping forward. He grabs her hand saying, Great timing! Let's talk about that later. I have some business with her. The Duke shrugged it off. Right, let's talk about it at home. Squire Aristia, you may leave for the day, he added. Just go, Aristia said. Pardon? Wait, but Commander, I'll be go. Slam! The doors shut behind them. Sir Sudden asked. Commander was that, he replied. My youngest son. I apologize for his rude behavior, Sir Sudden said. It's fine, sir, he murmured. Looks like they're as close as the rumors say. As the rumors say? The commander responded, frowning. Letitia explained. I heard they spent a lot of time together at the Monique estate, and even trained together. Some people say they're more than just friends. The commander slams his fist on the table. Watch what you say. Squire Aristia is the future fiancé of the Crown Prince. Yes, Commander. Our apologies, Commander. The others stammered, backing away. The Duke thought. I knew there'd be gossip after sending Sane to the estate. But now, with more people in the Imperial Palace, word will spread faster. No one must know that Lady Aristia wishes to inherit her family's house. Her giving up her role as the future Empress would greatly affect the Imperial faction. Anyway, we have to wait until His Majesty makes a decision. He sighed, deep in thought. I must tell Carcian not to be so rash. Carcian, where are you taking me? Aristia called, feeling a mix of excitement and curiosity. She hadn't seen Carcian in a while, and as she glanced up at him, she realized he seemed even taller. After they stopped. It's been a while, he greeted her. Aristia replied. Yes. How have you been, Carcian? Carcian said. Well, so, I guess, she asked. So? That's so generic, Carcian said. So what? You're still short, I see. Is that what I should say? And that's unnecessary, she replied, rolling her eyes at him. Is that so? Carcian suddenly leaned closer, causing her to flinch. She said, Hey, Carcian, why are you getting closer? Wait, hold on. You're too close. A flick to her forehead interrupted her protest. Oh, what was that for? She demanded, rubbing the spot. Clearing his throat, Carcian smirked. Don't be so rude to your superior, she wondered. H-U-H? Superior? He explained. After passing the test, didn't you become a squire? She replied. Oh, yes. It's all thanks to your lessons, he said. Right, and you know that a squire will always be below an official knight, right? He patted her head and said. So then I'll be your superior from now on. Aristia was surprised. What, I don't believe it. Carcian, did you? That's right, he announced proudly. I'll be officially knighted next month. Aristia's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, he's already a knight? But this year's exam was supposed to be difficult. I knew he were a genius, but I didn't realize you were that good. She trailed off, genuinely impressed. Finally realizing how amazing I am? Carcian replied, basking in her admiration. Now show me some respect, my cute little junior, she huffed. But you're not my superior yet. And remember, I joined the squadron before you, so that technically makes me your superior. Carcian laughed. I was wondering where you were going with that. But the one who is higher in rank and better should be the superior. Aristia turns and started walking. As you wish, then, he called her. Huh? Hey, are you upset? He said. Really? Are you seriously angry? I was just joking since it's been so long. Hey, look, you're no different from when I last saw you back at the estate. Hey, wait for me. Aristia chuckled, thinking. He's grown taller, but he's still the same person. I feel like I turn into a little child whenever I'm with Carcian. Perhaps I'm being affected by his personality. He's like a flame that burns freely, Carcian said. You haven't had dinner yet, right? There's a good restaurant that I know. I'll let you come with me, Aristia asked. Huh? Today? Carcian said. You're too skinny. If you're a knight, you should eat more and put on some weight. Look, your wrist dangles like a twig. One should always have a full belly. You better eat everything, a voice interrupted. I agree. That sounds good. May I join? Aristia called. Alandis replied. Good to see you, Sir Carcian, Carcian said. There's no way I'm paying for you, all right? So, shoo, Aristia said. I heard that you're an officer in the administration now. Congratulations, he replied. Thank you. They did say this was exceptional since I still have not celebrated my coming of age, Aristia thought. That's right. I forgot since I've been so close to them. They're both geniuses of the century. But, Wait, before his coming of age? In the past, they became an officer and a knight only after becoming adults, and even back then, they were still the youngest in history. Now, they're still 16 years old. It's happened a lot faster here, Alandis said. By the way, Sir Carcian, we're in the Imperial Palace, and there are a lot of eyes here. Shouldn't you be more careful? You attract attention wherever you go, and I'm sure a certain somebody will be disgruntled by your actions, Carcian replied. What? Stop nagging us about something unnecessary again, Aristia said. Alandis is right. We should be careful, Carcian said. TSK. This is fine between friends. Don't be so uptight. Aristia wondered, what's with this atmosphere? She asked. Carcian, where is that famous restaurant you mentioned? Alandis filled in. Right, Aristia wants to go. Lead the way. I'm quite curious about your palate, Carcian said. So you plan on following us, huh? As they were having dinner, there was a rivalry between Alandis and Carcian. The prince was coughing continuously, Hurin said as he pours tea. You've been coughing more today. Should I summon the royal doctor? Perhaps you should get examined, the prince replied. I'm fine, Hurin said. I'd say it's probably because of your sudden walk in the garden a few days ago. It was snowing, the prince questioned. Is that why? Hurin said. You usually never go outside during this time of the year, so that was unusual. What changed your mind? He replied while thoughtful. Well, I suppose it is indeed unusual. I wonder why I did that. His mind was thinking about Aristia. That child. I never thought she'd talk to me again, with such surprise, curiosity, and joy showing on her face. Actually, I wanted to ask if what was written in that letter was true, or if it was just a dream. I saw something that I thought I'd never see again. So I thought that I should at least tell you anything, he said to himself. I don't like winter. It reminds me of the one who was sick, and also of you. Meanwhile, the king announced. Right. I suppose it's time I made a decision. Summon everyone tomorrow. We will discuss the matter of my son and Lady Aristia, and of what is to follow. The next day, Alandis greeted her. Hello? You're not wearing your uniform today? Alandis and Carcian noticed her casual attire. She explained. Alandis, Carcian. I'm not working today. I'm here for an audience with His Majesty. Alandis responded with a casual nod. I see. She then asked. What about you, Carcian? You haven't been knighted yet. Carcian sighed. My father keeps dragging me here, saying I should get to know everyone. Alandis said. All right. Aristia, do you have some free time at the end of the year? My mother is planning to hold a garden party. A garden party? In this season? Aristia asked, surprised. Alandis explained. Looks like she wants to show off our greenhouse since everything is growing so well this year. She hasn't decided on the date yet, but we'll be sending out invitations to other houses soon. You should definitely look forward to it. Aristia smiled. Alright, do invite me. I'll make sure to attend. Carcian grinned. You'll definitely be the shortest person there. Then, turning to Carcian, Alandis added, You're invited too, Sir Carcian. Then Atistia went to have an audience with the king. Carcian narrowed his eyes suspiciously. What are you scheming? Alandis shrugged playfully. That's none of your business. Carcian reminded Alandis. You haven't forgotten that you owe me one, right? For that letter. Alandis agreed. Of course. That's why I'm holding myself back right now. Otherwise, I would have broken the hand that just touched my lady's hair. Carcian smirked. So, you still think creepy thoughts even when you're smiling, I see. Do you seriously believe I would just let you break my hand? Carcian challenged. Meanwhile, a conversation continued regarding Lady Aristia's role. The king mentioned, I see Lady Aristia has adjusted to her work as a squire then. I'm sure you must be concerned about the rumors regarding your son too. The Duke Archant replied, Not at all, Your Majesty. I don't really mind. The king commented, Oh, look at you. Have you also set your sights on the young lady? The Duke nodded. Well, I can't say I'm not at all interested. But Kirian isn't someone who would stay quiet about his daughter, right? That's true, the king replied thoughtfully. Since Kirian likely won't marry again, it's not a bad idea to have Lady Aristia inherit the family's name. Duke Ruth filled in. Your Majesty, but letting those rumors run wild could affect our party and unsettle the nobles. It's already been 25 years since you were crowned and subdued the knights and those who opposed you, Duke Archant said. Right, it's only a matter of time for them to rise again. Everyone knows how deep the loyalty is between the imperial family and House Monique. Taking back an engagement that has already been announced will surely be a good target for them. It's obvious they'll try to push one of their own to be the crown prince's fiancé. Word has already spread, so people will surely talk about it during the New Year celebration. Duke Ruth suggested. It is time to make a decision regarding the engagement between the crown prince and Lady Aristia. Even if Lady Aristia chooses to give up her position as the future empress, we must prevent any damage towards the honor of the imperial family. The king said, glancing toward his son. Right. Then let's hear from him directly. What are your thoughts on the matter, my son? The crown prince looked hesitant. He notices smoke in the glass window. What is that? Before he could finish, a messenger burst in, exclaiming, Pardon me, Your Majesty! There's an emergency in the West Wing. Meanwhile, Aristia and his friends also heard the commotion. The servants were rushing in hurry. Aristia wondered. Did something happen? She asked one of the servants. What's this commotion? He replied. My lady, please do not head towards the west wing of the palace grounds. A fire has broken out at Ver Palace. Aristia's heart sank. At Ver Palace, she asked. Where? The servant told. In the garden. Please do not approach that area. Her heart sank even more. The garden. No. Why there of all places? That garden, that's where the tree is. She remembered the prince's words. Once in a while it blooms. But it's a bit irregular. Its flowers may not be impressive, but they're very elegant. The silver flowers. She remembered. The silver flowers. Her heart was in shambles. Meanwhile, Alandis said. A fire in the Empress's garden. Carcian added. There aren't many people there, so it could happen. Alandis filled in. The knights and other subjects in the palace will put it out, so we should stay here, in the main palace. However, Aristia couldn't stay still. She dashed towards the place. Alandis and Carcian watched as Aristia suddenly dashed toward the palace grounds. Alandis called out after her. Aristia! Where are you going? Hey! As she dashed towards the place she recalls. Lately that garden hasn't been looked after very well. In such dry weather as today, if the fire isn't put out right away it might spread too quickly. She concluded. I might stand out again by going there like this, but I have to at least see it. Both Alandis and Carcian followed her but lost her. Carcian, bewildered, muttered, We lost her! Darn it, where is her palace anyway? Outside, the palace grounds were in chaos as servants and knights scrambled to bring water. Bring more water! Shouted a knight. The fire is spreading! Have the other knights arrived yet? Aristia reached the garden and was shocked seeing everything on fire.